Alright, and we're back. So this time, well, last time we did the energy pickup and the health pickup. And, hopefully you learn how to make those. You can make it your own mesh if you want to. This time, what I wanted to do is do like a sword pickup and allow our character to pick up a sword. Because I wanted, in this room, I want her to have a choice of which powers she gets. So she's going to see if she can get the shrinking power, she can get the sword, she can get the gun. So today I want to put in a sword. So what I did is I put a link to a Google Drive where you can download the same sword that I'm working with. I modeled it off of AI. Um, Basically, I used Dolly to pull up an image of a sword, and then I 3D modeled that sword. So it's not the best sword; it's the ice sword. So I'm going to import mine, and if you download yours, this is how you import it in. I don't think we've covered this before. So first you would want to go to the place where you want to import it in. So I'm going to go to my third person and I'm going to make a new folder called pickups. And then I'm going to double click in that folder and make a new folder called sword. Ice sword actually. Alright. And then I'm going to find my ice sword, which the folder is called making a game assets, and it's called ice swords. Just drag that in, leave everything as it is. You can build a nanite if you want, but we'll do that later if we need to. Like, nanite is for massive games. UE5 or UE4, before there was a nanite, could handle so much. So the nanite is a beautiful feature, and it's like the fact that 5.1 can do the foliage is amazing. So you'll be able to use it for big stuff like that. But for little things like this, it's only appearing one time. I don't think we really need to use that. So let's look at it here. I told you it's not the best sword, but whatever. It's our ice sword, and we're going to use this one as the sword that we're going to pick up. So if everything was good to you, which I think I want to change this material to make it a little bit more shiny. So I'm going to press 1 and connect that up to my roughness. That's going to give it a little bit more shiny. Press save. And no, we're done. Okay. Alright. So, again, I told you it's not the best sword, but whatever, bro. I just wanted to see if I can make one off of AI, which that's the sword I downloaded off of Dolly. So I was like, shoot, I can make that. Alright, so cool. Let's figure out how to pick it up. First thing we want to do is, since we're in our pickups folder, we're in the ice sword folder, let's right click and make an actor. So blueprint class actor, and we're going to call this the ice sword underscore BP. Okay. Now, if you click in there, what we need to do is add a static mesh. So add a static mesh. For the mesh, you want it to change it to that sword. So go to your sword, make sure it's highlighted, and press the button here. You got your sword. It's massive, right? Let's bring that down a little bit, yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna say 0.1, 0.1 in all axes. All right, we'll use it as that. Okay. Now that I've got that sword, we want this to be a pickup, right? We want them to be able to pick up the sword. So add a box collision. Bow. And make sure the box collision is, around the sword. It doesn't have to be that big around the sword. Just make sure that it's on all sides of the sword so that they can pick it up. Okay. Now, we need to go to the third person character. So go to our blueprints and click on our third person character. Okay. In here, what we need to do is have a variable. So let's add a variable, and we're going to call it has sword. Question mark. Right? We could make another one called equipped as well. Equipped. Question mark. I'm laughing because I don't know if that's how you spell it, dude. I'm just going off of what it is, whatever. But it is what it is. Add those two variables. We're going to use both of those later. Alright, so go back to your sword, and on this box, while it's selected, go on the right hand side, and on component begin overlap, drag off of other actor, and type in third person character. So when the third person character crosses that sword, we're going to set has sword to true. Connect that up. Boom. And then we're going to destroy the actor. Pow. So basically, when they run over the sword, they'll be able to pick it up, and then their character will register that they have the sword. That's perfect. You want to test it out? Let's test it out. Test it out, ma. Tell me what you see. Alright. So my pickups folder, my ice sword, my BP ice sword, which I see is mad small, dude. I have to change the size of that, right? Well, actually, it's not that bad. Let's check it out. Save. Play. Oh, yeah, that's a little bit small. But it worked. She ran over it disappeared. Same with these. Everything works. Alright, let's make the sword a tad bit bigger. I'm going to make it... let's go to the viewport so we can check it out. Click on the static mesh. And let's say like 0.2. We'll come back in here and change this anyways, and I'll tell you why. Because when we need her to pick it up, so we'll show you. So here we go. Let's try that. Yeah, that's more like it. That's like a powerful sword. Yeah. Alright, cool. Now, if you want your sword pickup to be like cool when it's out there, you can have it spinning around if you would like. But like if you wanted that spin around, just add a rotating movement to it. So type in rotating movement, and then it's going to be spinning around the Z-axis at 180, as long as the mesh is movable, which ours is. I'm not going to put that on mine, but you can keep it on yours if you want. That's like how stuff in games just moves, like when you know to pick it up. Anyways, there's something on this sword here though that I added. I need to go in and change. I remember when I made the sword, I put a light in the middle of it. So go click on your sword, and we need to click on the material that is, it looks like it's white right here. So it'd be this material 5. Now this is your light in your sword. You could change it to whatever color you want to. I'm going to do mine to red. So I'm going to unhook this thing here, hold M, hook this one up to A, and then hold the number 1 and click, and hook this one up to B. For the number 1, I'm going to come in the value over here and change that to like 0.5, 0.6. You can make yours lower or higher, but that's how bright it's going to be. So we're going to connect it to emission, and now you can change how bright it is. So watch this, it's getting brighter, darker. You can also always change the color. Maybe you want yours to be a little green or turquoise or something like that, and it's still going to be lit up. So let's check that out on the sword. Feel free to use this sword whenever. Yeah, so I got my little turquoise beam right in there. Cool. Feel free to use this sword whatever you on, like whatever project that you want to. I don't care. I made it just for this so you guys can use it. So anyways, cool. Now we got that. So if the player has the sword, we need her to be able to equip it. And this is where we need to set up inside the player the equipped. So let's set up a button for it like we set up our paws and everything else. So edit, project settings. Then we're going to go to input, of course, and add an action mapping. This one will be equipped. So for my keyboard, I want it to be, I guess, Q. And for the gamepad equipped, I want it to be D-pad right. This is how I set up a lot of my games, but usually I go off with the flow. With the gamepad, it's like, how does the game feel when you play it? So D-pad right. Alright, cool. You can always come back in there and change it. In your event graph for your player, type in what we just created, which is the equipped. Now, we need to make a branch first thing. And drag off your hash sword and get it. If the player does have the sword after they press it, then they can do everything else, which is equipping it. If they don't have the sword, then they can't equip it. So, we should really put a flip-flop after this, because we're probably going to do toggle, equipped and unequipped from the same button. Compile and save. Now, go to your viewport, click on your character here, and we need to get a socket. So, in order to do that, we need to find our character, which mine's in characters, Scarlet. And then what you want to do is find her skeleton. So her skeleton is this one, the blue one. Right? Now, what we can do is we want the sword to be in her right hand. Right? So in order to do that, let's look for where the bone right hand is. Right here. Right click on that and then say create a socket. So add a socket. And it's called the right hand socket. By default, I believe you can right click and rename it, but I'm gonna leave mine right hand socket, right? Then on that socket, I'm gonna right click and then say add preview asset, and I'm gonna type in ice sword. Yeah. Whoa, it's ginormous. So this is what I was talking about before. We'd have to make it small, but we don't really. This is how you would get it lined up. So I would honestly make it small. This is actually good. We can make it small here. I'll show you guys. Sorry. Right click, add preview asset, ice sword. Because if we make this socket small, what's going to happen is that when we pull the thing in, we need to make that the same size as this. So here, we'll see. See how my sword is going into the ground. First thing, let's raise my sword up like this, because we need 90 degrees like that probably. And let's turn this back to 1. That's why it looks so flat on y'all's. Then we need to make it all the way smaller, all of it together. So click on your scale thing, or click R and scale it down. Oops. Perfect. So that should be good. Make sure it's like lined up with her hand, the handle. Right there. Alright, cool. So now that you got your right hand socket, what we need to do is go back to Scarlet, the third person character. And we can do this a lot of different ways, right? So let's add a static mesh. So add a static mesh. Right? And what you're going to do is find the static mesh of the ice swords that you want. Okay, and then what you want to do here is there's a parent socket thing. So you can click and find your parent socket, and I want mine to be the right hand socket. And if you have it right lined up in the socket, it should go directly into her hand perfectly. Now you can move it around a little bit even after the fact. So I can move it down a little bit, just make it like that. Oops. And now she's got a nice cool sword. But now I need her to be able to equip it and unequip it. So here's what we'll do. In the event graph, we will first set this. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. Alright, so what we want to do is on the equipped, first thing we want to do is actually make another socket, because when she puts the sword away, we want it to be somewhere else. So let's do this. Go back into our skeleton. And when they put the sword up, let's just put it on her back for now, you know, like how they do in games. So find like, I think it will be her spine or something. Spine 1, spine 2. I like spine 2. Cool. And then we're going to do the same thing. Add a socket. Add a socket. And in this socket, which is called spine 2 socket, we're going to put another preview asset, which is the ice sword, so that we can make it the right size again. Ooh. First thing first, I'm going to scale mine down so I know what I'm working with. Scaling it down. You can even match the other one. It's not necessary though. It's kind of a rough idea of where this is going, basically. You know how people have it like, use it like that. There we go. Cool. So then her sword will go into her back when we put it there. So save. Now we got 2 different sockets, and that's amazing. Let's go back to our character. And now we're going to work on this code here. But I think that we're going to do it a simpler way here. So what we need to do is double click on our character. And what we need to do is make sure that your mesh, you have 2 meshes here. So go to your viewport, and I think that we have the mesh, like I started over, but I think that we have the mesh for her right hand socket, and we need to put one on her back. So go to your character mesh, and we're going to add 2 static meshes. If you already have one, just add one. Alright, so I'm going to add a static mesh, and this is going to be my hand gun, I guess, or hand sword. And then we'll find the sword, ice swords. Alright, and then we'll put that in the socket. So for the socket, you can look over here for right hand socket. There you go. Now what you need to do is take the scale of the sword down. So you can change it to like 0.1. And there you go. Save. Compile. Save. Now, on the right-hand side, what you want to do is go down and say visible. Uncheck visible. So now it's not visible. Now, on your mesh, add another static mesh. Right? And this is also going to be the ice sword, but this is going to be the back sword. Alright? Now, for this static mesh, do the same thing. Find the mesh, and then we're going to parent it to the correct place. So ice sword is the mesh. Cool. Now we need to parent it to the right socket. So let's parent it to the other socket we made, which was spine 2 socket. Right? And then it should go right there on her back like it's supposed to. Yep. So there we go. And then you press compile, save. Also make this one not visible as well. Okay. Alright, now we're going to set up the code. So, I know I was trying to run you through the code the last time, but I was trying to do it a different way. Let's do it this way now. So, when she presses equipped, we want the hand sword to show up visible. Okay. So, what we need to do is set the visibility. To true. Right? And you can actually put a flip-flop there because we're going to do a flip-flop. So, when they press the button the first time, you're going to equip the sword in your hand. And when you press it the second time, you're going to hide it. And there you go. Just unclick that, new visibility, and there. Make sure the visibility is clicked on the top and unclicked on the bottom. And I'll compile and save, and then we'll put some more complicated stuff to it. So let's put a branch before all of this. She can only equip if she has the sword. So let's plug that in and plug in true. If she does not have the sword, then she cannot equip, right? So compile, save, and let's test it out. So actually I'm going to need a sword in my level. So put the sword back in your level. I'll make mine a little bit smaller. Okay. And let's test it out. So she walks around, she picks up the sword, and now she presses equipped, and it's in her hand. And now it's not. Perfect. Perfect. Alright, let's make it so that when she picks up the sword, it appears on her back. So go back into your sword BP. And it says that when the player overlaps the sword, it's going to set the player to have the sword and destroy the actor. What we need to do is drag off of here, off the player, and say back sword. Get back sword, right? And then want to set the visibility to true. So set the visibility to true. Boom. Perfect. Alright, so before we get back and test this, what we need to do is go back to your character now, and let's fix this code up. Let's fix it up a little bit more. So when she presses the button, like when she runs into the sword, it's going to appear on her back. And when she presses equipped, then it's going to appear in her hand. And we need it to disappear from her back. So we're going to take the back sword and set the visibility to not true. And on the bottom one, you want to take the back sword and set the visibility to true. So when she unequips, we want to put the sword back on her back. Alright, and that should be the whole code set up to pick up the sword and equip it. So let's try that. You walk into the sword. Cool, now it's on her back. And if you press Q, it's in her hand. It's on her back, in her hand, on her back, in her hand. Now, I'm going to have to fix the size of the one on her back, and I'll show you how to do that. That's just fixing the socket size. So, or you can go fix it in the mesh, but I'm going to fix it in the socket size so it's a little bit easier. So, let's go real quick back to our character. So go to the characters, Scarlet, and go to her socket. So, her skeleton. Now for the back sword socket, let's just change this back to here. So spine 2 socket is what it's called. And it's down here. And I see that my scale, I'm just going to put it at 1, right? 1, 1, and 1. Perfect. Save. So that way when I go down to my character, so blueprints, my character blueprint, then I can go back into her viewport. Ooh. And for that back sword, right, let's actually make it visible right now so we can see it. So come down here to visible. It should be gigantic, perfect. But let's change that to 0.1 so that it matches the other sword that we have. Perfect. Compile. Save. So now, like, her swords should be the exact same size. But we'll check it out here. So let's see what we got. Alright. Go ahead and pick up that sword. It's on her back. Q. It's in her hand. Q. Back on her back. Perfect. Alright, so that's it. Next time I'll see you on the next video, and we're going to learn how to do the gun. So we picked up the sword, and we can use the sword. We haven't been able to swing it, but we'll do that as well. But first we need to set up the gun and the bullets and stuff. So we'll do that in the next episode. Thanks for joining me, and I'll holla at y'all next time. Peace.